Our story begins with death evaluating life. Some enter coffins, while others enter urns. One man then asks how many there were in total, and the other replies that there were 33 urns. They plan to finish the job before dawn. Then it is mentioned who evaluated the narrator's life and what kind of life he would lead. Next, a man's body is shown inside a barrel. The scene changes to a woman with white hair and red eyes, called Snow White. The man comments that this woman was the target. Another man raises his hand and asks if Snow White was Caucasian, and the man replies, "Well, isn't she just a typical Asian woman? She seems like a lot to target." The other man then says, "Team leader, Kinuyuk, don't judge her based on race or gender. She's a very dangerous woman indeed. Kana Nana Yamaji, also known as Snow White. It's a good thing she has that nickname, because I wouldn't be able to say her full name if I couldn't." The man then explains that she was the leader of the Yakuza, and that the reason she is called Snow White is because she is the main supplier of pure cocaine. You understand, right? That's the reason behind the nickname Snow White. The target was scheduled to hold a drug party in a hotel, with minimal security, after a meeting with a domestic organization and an international faction, in order to prevent the distribution of illegal drugs on the domestic market. This opportunity should be used to eliminate it. The man comments that the mission would be disguised as an organizational conflict and that firearms were not allowed. Another man asks if the mission wasn't a little more difficult for that reason, and that's why they're assigning the task to their best agent. He then says, "Team leader Suyuk, I trust only you, team leader." Suyuk replies, "Then leave it to me." The scene changes to the moment when a man comes out of the elevator, and the other men who were there wonder who the hell that crazy man was and why he was coming in like that. Someone comments to Alpha that he was coming in. The man then pulls out a knife, and the others also pull out their knives, starting a general fight. However, Kinu, with the greatest ease in the world, manages to slit the throat of one of the men. Then another man tries to attack Kinu, and is told that approximately 10 non-combatants need to be eliminated. It is estimated that there are more than 20 combatants. The team leader asks how many agents are needed for entry, and Kinu replies that he will need 3 agents, including himself. The man asks if there aren't too many, and Kinu replies, "There are 3 exits, so there's nothing to be done. After all, this is an extermination operation. No matter how many Yakuzas there are, no one can defeat my brothers." Then it is shown that one of the men has already eliminated several enemies. He then says, "Brother, isn't this too easy? We are black agents, elite survivors from hell." Kinu asks him to focus on the mission, and all the team members in the field approach the main target. Kinu then orders, "Everyone will be under the influence of drugs, and now there's only one way out. Block all the exits and kill everyone." Suddenly, Snow White appears kissing another woman. However, when Kinu opens the door, they are amazed to see that everyone in the place is already dead, and that they have done absolutely nothing. Kinu then asks them to find the target quickly, close the entrance, and lock the door. Suddenly, a voice asks, "Who locked the doors and who's there?" Someone turns on the lights, and Snow White says, "The entrance is closed and the door is locked. What next?" She then adds, "From now on, we must kill you all." Kinu thinks, "What if we had escaped with my brothers? We, who thought we were the strongest, are now facing death itself." Snow White then orders one of the men to get something, and she throws the girl's head into his hands. Snow White then shoots him in the head, killing him instantly. The other man ended up getting very stressed, and he went for her too, but Kinu told him to stop, as she was no ordinary opponent. However, she ended up putting a hole in his head too. Snow White, smiling, said, "No matter how many insects you gather, they will always be insects. And what do you think you can do? Handsome." Frightened, Kinu thought he had to remain calm, because that entity was beyond his capacity. However, they couldn't retreat at that moment. Snow White threw something in his direction, and he realized that she was attacking with teeth. He narrowly managed to dodge, but she continued to throw several teeth at him. Kinu dodged all of them, and, when he came close to attacking, she grabbed his face and threw him away with great force. Kinu thought it would be impossible to defeat the creature, but he stood up, wondering what kind of power it possessed. When he looked up, he saw that the woman was jumping, and she landed so hard on his legs that she broke them. Kinu cried out in pain, while Snow White said that she really liked him, which made her even more excited. He replied that it was still going to be a lot of fun, and then stuck a knife in Kinu's hand. Kinu asked if all that was fun for her, that scene with several dead people on the ground and taking people's lives just for fun. He asked if that was what she called fun. So Kinu bit down hard on Snow White's neck, tearing off a piece, then picked up a knife from the ground and stuck it in her neck, surprising her with his attitude. He said, "I finally managed to kill this wretch," and her body fell on top of his. Kinu said that his revenge had been successful, but he regretted having survived alone. "I'm sorry about that. I'll join you soon, my brothers," he said. Suddenly, blood started dripping from his eyes and he started spitting blood. Snow White then stood up and said that it was incredibly unpredictable. Even though he was only a human, the fact that he had bitten her neck was impressive. She revealed her teeth, which had fangs, and Kinu asked what the hell she was. Suddenly, Kinu felt unbearable pain in her body and began to squirm. She said, "Don't try to understand, it doesn't mean anything, and you're the first one I've met like this. I hope you can." Kinu began to spit out a lot of blood and collapsed on the floor. Snow White, watching everything, commented that this was pathetic. Other men entered the room asking if the boss was all right, but at an absurd speed, she killed one of them and said, "Clean up the bodies, we're going back to Japan." The scene returns to Kinu's body inside that bucket. He stands up and says, "They said that death evaluates life." The men standing there wondered what was happening to him, and one of them said, "Don't worry, I'm sure he's dead." One of the men asked if it was rigor mortis or something, as he had never seen anything like it. They wondered what kind of resentment would drive someone to do that. Kinu then thought, "What if I refuse to die in this place? What kind of evaluation would I receive?" One of the men put out a cigarette on his neck, saying that they had to hurry to bury him as soon as possible so that he could finally rest in peace. However, Kinu's neck regenerated from that burn, leaving the man perplexed. Kinu then opened his eyes, and the men were amazed that he had survived. All Kinu could think of was that he would certainly take revenge on that wretch. The scene then changes, and we see all the members of the field team approaching the main target. Kinu says, "Everyone is under the influence of drugs, and now there's only one way out." This actually starts repeating itself in his mind. Kinu then orders them to block the exits and kill everyone. However, suddenly the entire room is empty, and two hands appear behind Kinu. He wonders where everyone has gone, and those hands end up covering his mouth. Snow White appears with several hands holding him. Kinu, in such a critical situation, still manages to touch Snow White, showing his wit. Snow White says, "You've finally made it. So welcome. You're now an urn walker." Suddenly, Kinu wakes up scared and says that his head hurts a lot. He realizes he's in the middle of the ocean, on a ship, and wonders what he's doing there. When he looks around, he sees that everyone around him is dead, some with their bodies cut in half. Kinu wonders what the hell just happened in that place. A man then approaches him and says, "Team Leader Suyuk, we're from headquarters. Please come with us." The scene switches to Kinu in a car, still wondering what happened on the ship. One of the men says that they are also investigating what happened there. He adds that he has heard that Kinu has completed his mission and asks if he is all right. Kinu replies that everything is fine. The man then says that the journey is not a short one and suggests that Kinu get some sleep. We then see that the men in the car are wearing old-fashioned masks. Suddenly, a strange gas starts to come out, causing Kinu to almost lose consciousness as he wonders what is going on. The man says that they have protected the sample for the director. The director, with an evil smile, says, "Good work, all of you. Transport it to the lab right now and we'll start the dissection immediately." He then celebrates that he has finally got that thing, remembering Snow White. A car arrives and the director rushes out, calling the researchers. He says they need to act quickly, as there are many experiments to be carried out. However, when he opens the trunk, he finds the bodies of the two men who were in front. He wonders what happened there, but suddenly something hits him in the forehead, killing him instantly. All the other men are shot in the head, leaving only the director standing there, completely confused about what was happening. Someone gets out of the car, scaring the director, who runs out. He orders all the units to eliminate that man. Kinu gets out of the car armed. Everyone jumps on him at once, but Kinu easily takes them all out, shooting some in the face and breaking the arm of others. However, two men appear from behind, trying to attack him. Kinu easily dodges and kills them both. Suddenly, he is shot in the face. Some men appear and say that they have subdued him and that it is time to check his body. As they approach, Kinu shoots them both in the head, leaving one of the men perplexed, as he was sure he had hit Kinu in the head. Kinu then says, "My team and I have dedicated our entire lives to the country, and now you have sacrificed us, all for the sake of your own achievements. Director, I'm going to show you how cruel the dog you abandoned can be." He wonders what's happening to him, saying that he's been killed 2 or 3 times, but he's still alive. He knows that, as an agent, he collects information and eliminates his enemies. The director, frightened, asks for calm, promising to explain the situation, saying that there are circumstances that justify his actions. He offers to help Kinu with his next promotion and asks him to drop the gun. However, Kinu shoots him in the leg and orders him to shut up and answer, "What the hell did you do to me?" The director tries to explain that there has been a misunderstanding, but Kinu shoots him in the other leg. The director then reveals that even if Kinu dies, he comes back to life and his wounds heal quickly. He says that some of Anna's subordinates were the same way and that, thanks to this technology, they made it to the top of Japan. They also want this technology, which is why they sent the agents. But instead of getting information, you all ended up dead. So we revised the plan and decided to send a reliable agent. And you were chosen for this mission. As soon as Snow White entered Korea, she brought this technology with her. From now on, even on dangerous missions, Kinu wouldn't have to worry about injuries. The director praises Kinu. "You've worked hard on this. Team leader Suyuk, you're definitely a hero." But Kinu, furious, shoots the director in the shoulder. Screaming in pain, the director asks, "I told you everything, so why do you keep shooting me?" Kinu replies, "Talking about being a hero while planning to use me as a test subject? Do you even know anything about that bastard? If there were continuous victims, you should have gathered more information. Everyone died because of your greed. My colleagues could have been saved from that place." The director tries to argue, "Let's say you have some strange abilities, and those Yakuza idiots are just people too, right? They died because they were on a suicide mission. We even gave them medals when they died. So why are you causing conflict with me, you bastard?" Kinu, out of patience, kicks the director in the mouth and says, "Enough, don't say another word. Now you're going to feel the pain that the agents felt. Tonight will be terribly long." Desperate, the director begs Kinu to stop. As Kinu approaches, several cars arrive at the scene, and one person orders him to drop his weapons immediately. The director complains, "What took you so long to arrive? I called you a while ago." Several soldiers point their guns at Kinu, who thinks, "This is very dangerous. I need to find shelter as soon as possible." Kinu starts to run, but everyone opens fire on him, turning his body into a sieve. He falls to the ground and the fire stops. The director, triumphant, says, "He looked so powerful, but that was well done for him. You just need to be tied up for the rest of your life and give us your blood with joy. After all, can't you come back to life and heal your wounds? So keep resisting." Suddenly, a woman with red hair appears on a bridge and asks if that was Suyuk. The director, confused, asks what she means. She reveals herself to be the leader of Squad 7, Yaka. The director, frightened, orders her to be killed immediately. The soldiers try to shoot her, but she quickly appears behind them and, in the blink of an eye, begins to chop them all up. The director, incredulous, can't believe she's using knives against firearms. Yaka begins to cut the necks of several soldiers at once. When one of them tries to shoot her in the back, she cuts the bullet in half with absurd speed. The soldiers, perplexed, wonder what kind of monster she is. After eliminating everyone, all that remains is the director, who has already been shot 3 times. In desperation, he approaches Kinu, but before he can say anything, Yaka cuts his head in half. Yaka approaches Kinu, who is seriously injured on the ground, and asks, "Are you Suyuk?" Kinu starts to get up with difficulty. She then says, "Lydiana asked for you to be brought in." Kinu, enraged, replies, "Go, assert yourself, you fucking bastard." Yaka corrects him, "It wasn't bring it in, but bring it to me." She points her sword at Kinu's face and, when he tries to attack her, he manages to defend himself with a knife. She compliments him, "You really are impressive." Kinu, already badly wounded and losing a lot of blood, knows that the longer the fight drags on, the harder it will be for him. He wonders if this is the only way to get out alive. The girl then tells him that he has resisted long enough, but now it's the end. She breaks Kinu's guard and pierces his stomach. When all seemed lost, Kinu grabs her arm tightly and says, "Finally, I've got you." He then begins to chop Yaka completely until he rips her head off. But, already very weak from blood loss, Kinu falls to the ground. He thinks, "This time, I've certainly cut off her head, so I've won. But my mind is already fading. Am I dying again?" At that moment, he opens his eyes and sees a leg picking up the woman's head, which reconnects to her body as if it were a Lego piece. Yaka then says, "Lydiana will find that very interesting." Kinu realizes that he can't move a muscle in his body. Ak observes the protagonist and comments that he has done very well, stating that when he wakes up, he will be in front of Lady N. She adds that he must be the most resilient so far, mentioning that his blood supply has been cut off and that he is still conscious. Ak says they should go back before it's too late. At that moment, Kinu stands up again, and Ak is surprised, wondering how he managed to stay on his feet. She warns him that fighting her would be of no benefit and would be foolish to try. Kinu, ignoring her words, tries to punch her in the face. In response, Ak cuts off one of Kinu's arms, warning that, at this rate, all his limbs would be amputated. However, with his other hand, Kinu punches her in the face, breaking her mask. Ak comments that Kinu's body was using advanced regeneration, but at super speed. She realizes that Kinu was acting much more savagely than usual. In an unexpected move, Kinu bites Ak's arm and starts sucking all her blood. Ak, desperate, realizes that if she continues like this, she will lose all her blood. With no other option, she cuts off her own arm and steps back. As she looks at Kinu, she notices that her eyes are completely black, with red pupils, and that her arm is completely mummified, with no blood in it. Ak wonders what was happening to him. Just then, Kinu is shot in the head and someone tries to shoot Ak. She defends herself with her sword, but a shot hits her shoulder. Confused, Ak wonders what was going on. More people appear around her, and a mysterious figure appears in the middle of everyone, reciting a prayer. "Our Father in heaven, we are sending these two up." Ak, surprised, recognizes those bastards and, without hesitation, they start shooting at the two of them. Ak orders them to shoot them in the legs, causing them to fall to the ground. She then instructs them to stop shooting and tells them to burn the bodies. One of the soldiers pulls out a special weapon and throws darts at Kinu, which begin to shock him. Ak realizes that it's dawn, and as the sun begins to touch his skin, it begins to burn intensely. The mysterious woman comments, "Is it too painful? The fires of hell will be twice as hot as this. Why are you making such a fuss about it?" Ak tries to warn them not to underestimate humans, but the woman steps on his arm, crushing his hand, and replies, "What are you saying? You idiot, you're going to die today by my hand, and soon your friends will too." Suddenly, the woman asked what was going on, because they were screaming. To her surprise, Kinu had gotten up, even under intense shock. She was outraged to see that he was still standing, even after being hit so many times, but something else puzzled her. Why wasn't he being affected by the sun? Sensing a gap, Ak sees a chance to escape. She quickly runs and manages to escape, using all her remaining blood to regenerate. When the mysterious woman tries to go after Ak, one of her allies comments that bastard, Kinu, seemed to be indestructible. Kinu, furious, lunges at one of the soldiers, but the mysterious woman rips his arm off as if it were nothing and comments that Kinu seemed extremely dangerous. The mysterious woman orders everyone to leave. She tries to decapitate the protagonist, but he defends himself with his hand and, in response, punches her in the face. However, she deftly deflects it. Relieved, the woman comments, "Thank God, I'm glad I didn't finish this guy off before." Her eyes begin to glow gold, and she lands an extremely powerful punch to the protagonist's stomach. She continues, "A guy like you is bound to stand out. Where have you been hiding all this time?" When the smoke clears, the woman realizes that the protagonist was sucking the blood of one of her henchmen. Furious, she watches the protagonist become even more ferocious after absorbing the blood, screaming intensely. Determined to put an end to it, she prepares to attack, but then realizes something. The man in front of her was actually the leader of Team Suyuk. The protagonist, still regaining consciousness, asks if that was the commander's voice. The man asked if he was conscious now, and when Kinu realized that he was tied up in chains, the mysterious woman then addressed him, saying, "Kinu Suyuk, listen very carefully to what I have to say. After considering your conduct, we have decided that you must die. A vampire cannot be allowed." Kinu doesn't understand a word she's saying and asks what she's talking about. The woman calmly repeats, "Because of your behavior, we have decided that you must die, because you are a vampire." Kinu laughs in disbelief. "A vampire? Don't make me laugh. There's no such thing." The woman, however, looks at him seriously. "Do you really think it doesn't exist?" She then touches Kinu's face, and suddenly he begins to feel an insatiable thirst for blood. He loses control, his fangs grow, and his personality changes drastically. Kinu, now thirsty for blood, declares that he wants to drink immediately. However, he soon returns to normal and wonders what has happened. The woman then asks if he believed her now. Another man comments that, although Kinu was incredulous, it seemed to be true. The man then reveals that he has a video of Kinu in despair on the ship, showing bodies exactly as described. Kinu Kinu, shocked, asks if they were implying that he did it. The woman then reveals, "You issued a removal mission without knowing who Anna is? Are you really so reckless?" Kinu, still trying to understand, replies, "You found out that Anna is a vampire, something that even the National Intelligence Service doesn't know?" The woman confirms, "Of course, killing vampires is the job of our Vatican squad. According to the rules, we should have killed you too, but I'm going to give you a special chance. Become my dog." Kinu, confused, asks what she meant by that. She explains, "From what I've heard, we have a common enemy, so let's not waste our strength against each other. We should kill Anna together. What do you think?" The scene shifts to a building where Snow White, holding Ock's mutilated body in one hand, says, "Some are taking over cartels and absorbing the mafia, so why can't anyone catch a single insect?" Ock, who was missing his legs, arms, and half his torso, began to apologize desperately. Snow White, disappointed, replies, "As expected, I shouldn't have trusted you." Suddenly, Snow White takes off Ock's mask and unexpectedly kisses her, transferring her own blood to Ock. Immediately, Ock begins to regenerate his body, putting all the parts back together. She ends up in a very suggestive position, even provoking a mischievous reaction. Snow White then says, "This is your last chance. Bring her to me." The scene changes again, showing Ock walking down a dark alley. Suddenly, a mysterious blonde woman with red eyes appears on top of a building, watching everything. The scene then changes to Kinu sitting in the back seat of a car next to a mysterious woman. She turns to him and asks, "Would you rather die as a vampire by my hand or become my dog and work with me to kill Anna together?" Kinu feels a strange familiarity with the situation, but can't explain why. The man behind the wheel warns, "Be careful, team leader Suyuk. The agent you killed was part of the director's faction, and now we have no choice but to consider him a target too." The look on his face says it all. The woman then asks Kinu, "Is it still hard to believe that you're a vampire?" Kinu replies, "Why did you bring me here?" She explains, "If it weren't for me, all the factions would have caught up with you by now. In that case, wouldn't it be better if we joined forces and took revenge together?" Kinu, skeptical, asks if she really trusts him, to which she replies bluntly, "Of course not, but the enemy of my enemy is my ally, at least for now." The woman looks out of the window and says, "Here is the squadron's main base." Kinu is surprised. "Isn't this just a cathedral?" She confirms, "Yes, it is. It looks much more natural that way." Kinu suggests that they should go back, but she insists, "No, this is our destination. Besides, Suntun is protected by sacred artifacts. Let's just say you can't just walk in there. Even if you become a member of the squad, you're just prey for Anna now. Therefore, I've classified you as a special case and decided to manage you personally. In other words, you'll have to live with me." Kinu is surprised by her suggestion, but the woman continues, "This is a hotel affiliated with the squadron, which provides a secure location and leaves no records. Now, think about this, we haven't even properly introduced ourselves yet. My name is Mairer, a member of the Vatican Secret Squad." Kinu replies, "I'm Kinu Suyuk." Mairer then invites him to ask anything he wants, and he takes the opportunity to ask her to explain more about vampires. Mairer begins, "So you've accepted, have you? Let's go." Vampires, while they continue to consume human blood, basically never die. They have a physical capacity that surpasses that of humans, and some vampires have unique abilities. Most of them are created with the blood of ancient vampires, and Anna is the only one left from this lineage. You turned into a vampire as soon as you bit her neck. Kinu then asks, "How do you kill a vampire?" Mairer replies, "First of all, vampires burn to death when exposed to sunlight. But there's a problem. You're an exception. I saw with my own eyes that you weren't burned by the sun. That's probably why Anna is after you. But we can use this point to our advantage to create an opportunity to confront her. To do this, you need to become much stronger. I'll help you with that. Now do you understand why I brought you here?" Kinu confirms, "I understand clearly now, but I'm still a little afraid. Without the restriction of the sun, I could become the worst vampire of all. Letting me loose could be very dangerous, and killing me would mean losing enormous potential. So, using the public enemy as a pretext, you monitor me and remove me if I become dangerous. In any case, you have nothing to lose, do you?" Mairer smiles. "You really weren't the main agent for nothing. In the end, you're still a vampire. It's part of our job as members of the squad, but it's also true that we want to kill Anna. And to do that, we intend to make you stronger. If you have any complaints, feel free to speak up now." Kinu, with a determined look on his face, replies, "I've already died several times. As long as I can kill Anna, I don't care about anything else. And I have no intention of going down easily. Mayura reflects internally. You've revealed your intentions without even hiding anything, and yet you're still willing to go ahead. Are you trying to say that your only goal is revenge? I really liked your boldness. It will be great fun taming you. She then says out loud, well, now that we've finished introducing ourselves, I think it's time to eat, isn't it? They are alone in a room, and Kinu realizes the double meaning in her words. Mayura then asks him to bite her neck. Kinu, confused, asks, why should I bite your neck so suddenly? What do you mean? Mayura replies firmly, like it or not, you're a vampire too. Normally, the lack of blood would stop your movements, but you seem to be frantically searching for blood somehow. You wouldn't want to kill innocent people, would you? These words upset Kinu. He gets up and approaches her. Mayura says, the neck has cameras, so hurry up and drink. Kinu reluctantly gives in to his bloodlust and bites her neck. As the blood enters her system, a voice echoes in her mind, I'll let you drink it all. As expected, you're a very interesting person. Startled, Kinu pushes Mayura, who falls onto the bed. Kinu thinks, this urge for blood, it's vampire instinct. Mayura, still lying down, says, you'll be busy from tomorrow, so you'd better sleep soon. If you lose control, you can be sure that I'll kill you on the spot. Kinu wonders if he will have to drink blood like this every day, but concludes that everything he is doing is for revenge. Even if my body has turned into a vampire, I'm sure my heart won't, he thinks, as he wishes his brothers rest in peace. I'll be sure to send that to hell. He then changes and lies down. Mayura, on the other hand, is very embarrassed by the whole situation, wondering why he is lying next to her. Can't you see there's another room right in front of you? Didn't I mention that there was a bed over there and yet he's lying next to me? That's unbelievable. And as a saint, sharing a bed with a man is a bit strange, she thinks. Kinu Suyuk, I didn't know you were like that. Mayura greets him with a hello, to which he simply replies, yes. She thinks, what a pathetic guy. What kind of thoughts does he have? But the more she watches him sleeping, the more ashamed she becomes. Trying to calm her mind, she begins to pray, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name, and lead us not into temptation. But to her surprise, Kinu's hand ends up slipping and touching her belly, which drives her completely crazy. The next morning, Mayura pulls himself together and says, today I'm going to explain how to kill a vampire. As you already know, ordinary weapons don't work on vampires. There are only two effective ways to kill them, sunlight and silver. Even touching silver can cause pain and burns. Using silver weapons to decapitate or destroy the heart deals a fatal blow and kills the vampire on the spot. Kinu, remembering the fight with Iyaka, comments, that woman really didn't die. Mayura confirms, apart from that, vampires can't be killed. Do you have any questions before we start training? Kinu, a little embarrassed, says, you said your name is Mayura, right? I'm sorry about last night. However, before he can finish speaking, Mayura prepares a powerful punch. Kinu quickly manages to block the blow and wonders, what the hell is she doing? Mayura cuts Kinu off with a stern expression. Cut that shit you're talking. Now that you've learned the basics, let's get started right away. What you need is combat experience with non-human entities. Through future duels, you'll become stronger as a member of the Special Forces and, at the same time, you'll gain a lot more strength as a vampire through my blood. If you understand everything I'm saying, get into position now. She then starts attacking Kinu again, while he thinks, there are no humans stronger than we believed. It really was true, but I was just a frog in the well. No matter how difficult the entrance ahead, I can be sure that I will endure whatever happens to me. I've already survived hell, and it's already starting to take shape, but it's still a long way off. Suddenly, a man enters the room, asking permission to speak to Miss Mayura. She, still attacking Kinu, asks what the problem is. The man replies, a little nervously, sorry to interrupt while you're busy, but it seems you need to go to the sanctuary immediately. Mayura nods, understanding the gravity of the situation. Got it. I'll get ready right away, she says, as she turns to Kinu. I'll be back soon. Stay here and continue what you were doing. She dressed quickly and left the room, accompanied by the man. Kinu, curious, asks, why are you calling me to the sanctuary? The man replies that he doesn't have access to the details, but that the situation is urgent. Mayura thinks to herself as she makes her way to the sanctuary. I have a rough idea about the entity that might call me that. They're probably the ones who have arrived. The scene cuts to them in a car, with Mayura mentally preparing for the meeting. Meanwhile, the mysterious blonde woman is shown, observing everything from a distance. I finally caught you, Kinu Suyuk, she says, with a predatory look on her face. Arriving at the shrine, Myrer introduces himself respectfully. "Hello, Bishop. I'm Myrer, and I present myself as requested." "What brings you here?" She thinks to herself, "That's an envoy straight from the Vatican." The man replies with a slight smile, "It's an honor to meet you, Bishop Myrer. We thank you for your hard work. But let's skip the formalities and get straight to the point. You really did bring a vampire here, didn't you?" The scene then changes to a room full of well-dressed people. A man approaches the entrance counter and the attendant asks to see his ID. "How many people are in your group?" asks the attendant. The man replies casually, "We're a big group, about 200 people." Suddenly, he pulls out a knife and plunges it into the attendant's head, killing him instantly. The woman next to the man is horrified, and everyone in the room begins to wonder what is going on. Another man, clearly in a command position, says, "I'll take care of it. You two deal with the evacuation of the civilians and inform the control room." Just as he finishes speaking, 2 cars drive up, smashing the windows, and a group of armed men burst in. The leader looks around, furious. How dare these bastards come here? A fierce battle begins, with the leader slashing the chest of one of the invaders. However, to his amazement, the wound begins to regenerate almost instantly. "They're all vampires," he mutters, realizing the gravity of the situation. As the fighting intensifies, the leader concludes, "Hiding in a place like this, joining forces with the Vatican scum? It really is a nuisance. Suyuk must surely be here, and if you managed it, there shouldn't be any problems." The scene shifts to Aka, who asks him to bring Kinu to her. Meanwhile, all the vampires start running, and one of the leaders says, "You've worked hard too. After destroying the control room, join us." The blonde woman, who reveals herself to be the leader of Yakuza Nanaya's Squad 6 and is called Coco, agrees and says she's going to prepare for the next stage. Then she runs away. Aka reflects, she has also left her post. Now only the little ones are left, and I've brought in subordinates who have used their skills masterfully. There should be no failures here. As she exits the elevator, she finds all the subordinates dead on the floor. Aka is impressed and thinks, if there was a high-level bishop here, it would be impossible for them to have been defeated. A voice then breaks the silence. "It's been a long time since we saw each other. Were you looking for me?" Kinu, still unidentified, appears. The scene returns to Myrer and a man who speaks, "You brought a vampire into the Vatican squad. I really don't doubt your judgment, Bishop Myrer. I'll hear the details at the next bishop's meeting." The man then comments, "As I thought, you saw something, didn't you?" Myrer confirms that he has, and that after close monitoring over the last 3 months, there are no factors that pose a threat. Kinu has undergone the Vatican's training. Whether he will lead us to ruin or salvation, I really don't know, but I saw him, a red-eyed vampire standing in the sunlight. Kinu replies, "That's a relief. I was looking for you too. What do you say we settle this today?" The video ends with a thank you to viewers, reminding them to leave a like and a comment if they want more chapters of the work. The narrator also mentions that members of the channel have early access to the videos and can watch them without ads. He concludes with a thank you. Thank you very much for watching this far. Until the next video, and thanks.